All right, everybody. Good evening. This is Charles with the Exodus Logistics Learning Center, Dispatcher 101 Training for Beginners. Today is Wednesday, the 23rd of April, 2025. Um, we didn't have training on this past Sunday because of Easter, so this will be our first training in the second or final or the fourth week of the month. And our next one will be this coming Saturday, the 26th at 12 noon. But this is our Dispatcher 101 training for beginners. I did get an alert from our factoring representative, which is Seven Oaks, Jennifer. She said she would try to be in tonight to discuss a little bit about factoring from a dispatcher's perspective. But right now, I'll do some Q&A because I know we wasn't here on Sunday. We have some new people in. Mr. Carter, how are you?
Sure. Doing well, doing well.
Great, great. What brings you into dispatching?
Well, I've been in the trucking industry for over 20 years, mostly on the driver's side, also as an operations manager for a oil field logistics company out in Texas. And I don't know, man. I saw you on Truck and Hustle on their podcast on there, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just give that a shot. I've done enough of that on the road. I'm getting older. It's time to stay at home and not be gone from my family all the time. And like I said, I'm very familiar with with pretty much all of it, especially even the dispatching side. I just figured I would take this class and get more familiar with it and bust a
It
career
sounds
out of
it sounds like based off of your knowledge and experience, you would have been a good broker too, because it sounds like you have access to the consignors and the consignee and the information as far as the BOLs and who the shippers are, the customers are, and you may be able to form a relationship with them.
I probably will at some point. Um, I just feel I really feel like I can just do a little more for the carriers in a dispatch. It hits a little closer to home for me because I was a carrier for so many years, and I know we've got a lot of new ones coming in, and it's really hard for these guys with new authorities to get loads, and then a lot of them fail on account of that. And I feel like maybe I can do some good out there in this industry by helping some of these new authorities. So I can do that a little more dispatching than I can from a brokerage standpoint right now.
Okay, okay. Um, and we do have Monica that just came in. Hey, Monica from Seven Oaks. You're muted, Monica.
Hey, hi, Charles.
Hey, so
Sorry.
Monica is, I guess, Exodus Logistics Learning Center's factoring guru. We were
I'm the factoring
discussing
lady.
the challenge, if you will, for dispatchers to help carriers get loads who have new authorities. How can factoring roll into that concept and do that as well? First of all, Monica, can you do a brief introduction of yourself, who you are, what do you do, what is it that you do, and things like that, please?
Yes, yes. Hi, Charles. Thank you for having me today. My name is Monica Case. I work for Seven Oaks Capital's Factoring, uh, one of the medium-sized factoring company. We've been in business 28 years. I've been with the company 18 years, and what I like about them is they care about their clients. And personally, I love to work with startups. I like to hold their hands and walk them through the process and then keep them afloat. Uh, Different from most factoring companies that call, and get them in, and then it's hard sometimes because of their structure to give them this personalized service that we offer. Um, and as far as factoring, there's hundreds and or not thousands of factoring companies out there. Like I said, we're a medium-sized factoring company, and we have a lot of benefits for the carriers. And because trucking is a whole industry with a lot of pieces moving and a lot of service providers for these trucking companies, um, we partner with dispatchers and in a way to help these new carriers coming into the industry, because some of them They have no much idea of how to find their loads, how to navigate a load board, how to deal with brokers, how to identify brokers. So, and especially now, there's a lot of issues with brokers coming in and out, fraud, all kinds of things. A new trucking company, an owner operator that is not too familiar, or has not much experience, could really easily go down and lose one load, will make him lose the business. So
once someone just asked what kind of benefits, you must have mentioned some kind of benefits with factoring.
yes, so and for the carriers, what we do is we're very easy to work with. The first difference that we have compared to most factoring companies, our clients stay with us because they like our service, our partnership, not because we force them, because our agreement does not have a fixed term. We don't lock them into an annual, yearly agreement that's auto renewable or 6 months, any of that. So we have clients that stay with us for 20 years, and just because of the convenience, finish the load, you send it through. Now we have an app. You send it through the app, send the rate confirmation and the signed bill of lading, and you get they get their payment in the next morning.
So what is transportation invoice factoring for those who don't understand?
Factoring in transportation?
Yes.
Yes, correct. So factoring is a way to speed the cash flow for the carriers. So when they move a load for a broker, the broker will take 30, 45 days, some of them 60 days to send their payment, or charge 3, 4, 5% quick pay fee to send the payment in a couple of days. And the carrier has to deal with those payment terms from the broker and collect. What factoring does is speeds up the cash flow. So they don't have to wait the 30, 45 days, and they don't have to pay a high fee for that quick pay. And also the convenience of sending all their bills to one place, one pricing. They get their money in the bank the next day. They check all the reports online as if they were looking at their bank account. They have access to their account, access to check on brokers, and be able to be on top of their account. So it's just the convenience of the fast payment and just convenience of sending everything to one place at one fee instead of chasing money around. So
what I'm a dispatcher. I got a carrier who does not have factoring. I want to introduce them to Seven Oaks. What are the requirements that my carrier needs to meet to qualify for Seven Oaks factoring?
The carrier has to be established, either owner operator that's a sole proprietorship with a DOT number or an MC number if it moves out of the state. They had to have a social security number and use a photo ID. Either driver's license is the most common, or whatever photo ID they can present. So it's an established company or a sole proprietorship with a DBA, with a government ID, and they have to have the DOT number or the MC number if they move out of state.
Okay.
Of course, they have to have banking information for the company, a W-9, a tax ID number, EIN number, banking information, W-9, and of course, the certificate of cargo insurance that all transportation companies need to have. Go ahead.
Are your terms still 95% advance and a 2% first 45 days?
We are doing now, if you can update that, we're just going plain 95% advance and 2% flat fee to make it easy for everybody to just calculate it and don't be worrying about when the broker pays. So we're just doing a 2% flat fee now.
Okay, so I'll update that on the website then. 95% advance. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for Monica about factoring? Because you're going to get a carrier that may not have a factoring company, but they're relying on the broker to get paid. But you may have a broker who takes their net terms of payment, maybe 15 days, 30 days, or whatever, and they don't offer quick pay. Let's say they're a new broker. They don't offer those services. So you're like stuck. Well, how do I help my carrier from a dispatcher's perspective, right? Because they want to keep that cash flow going, up front so they can pay for fuel, maintenance, and to run their business, everyday operations. So, you know,
And as far as Charles, let me mention the benefit of a dispatcher. Yes, also Jennifer is putting the
yeah,
note there, gas
gas,
cards.
yeah,
Yes,
gas.
we partner with TCS Fuel. It's a discount card. It's not a credit card because you're starting up your business. You don't want to get in debt for gas. So what we partner is with a fuel discount card that you sign up and they mail you discount cards. That's I'm talking about the carriers. They mail out some discount cards that they can use those fuel discounts in several locations. And right now is I think 47 cents per gallon discount. So that's what we have. And as far as the dispatching partnership with Seven Oaks, which is very important. As a dispatcher, you have to expect the carrier to pay you through Cash App, Zelle, Venmo, or checks. I don't, I don't know exactly how the dispatchers get paid nowadays. So you have your agreement with the carrier. One of the benefits of working with Seven Oaks is we can actually, when the carrier authorizes, we can actually send your dispatching fee from the carrier's advance when we factor the invoice. You don't have to wait for them to pay you or send them reminders and all that. So we can get your banking information in, and when we fund on their invoice, we send them their advance and also send your dispatching fee on that same day. And another really good partnership benefit with dispatchers is when you find a carrier that is probably a new carrier and you're trying to help them in, they don't have a factoring company, you can bring them to work with me and we get them signed up. I explain all the system. They sign up and you start working together. You start funding loads, moving the loads. And as we start earning our 2% fee, we share 10% of those fees with the dispatcher that brought the carrier to work with us. And that is for the life of the deal. So even if you don't dispatch for that carrier anymore, if the carrier continues to work with Seven Oaks, you continue to receive your commission monthly as we generate fees with those carriers. So that's our referral program.
Yeah. So someone just asked, do you have any affiliate links dispatchers could put on their websites? Yes.
Yes, we can,
They can go through mine or just the one I have here on here. I can just send that one to them.
The
So
best way to send a carrier to us or to me will be to email me their information, because sometimes you give the factoring information to the carrier calls, get somebody else. They don't remember who sent them over, and they just go sign up and you don't receive your commission. So the best way is to email me the carrier's information and I will, get them signed up and update on the process. I've been doing this for 18 years. I've seen a lot of, the industry goes up and down, but it's always good. The key in this industry is to partner with the right people. So it's the customer service for me is, I'm a customer service champion for so many years. I used to process paperwork for carriers. So I know exactly all the paperwork part, the bill of ladings, the signatures, rate confirmation, load numbers, all of those things that are important to be successful in transportation and also factoring. So the dispatching partnership is something that I really value, because if you know your art of dispatching and you're helping out these carriers, they will be successful. Dispatching is successful. They keep the carriers running, and we are successful as well. So it's a circle. It's a circle of partnership that, if it's done correctly, it really helps out the carrier stay afloat. Yes.
So you mentioned the paying the dispatcher. So how does that process work? When I bring a carrier to Seven Oaks, they qualify for Seven Oaks, right?
Yes.
During that qualification process, I'm assuming on the application, you may ask them, well, hey, you qualify for, do you have a dispatcher? Yes or no? Yes. What do they charge you? 10%. But just for the sake of argument. Okay. So then when the carrier submits their first not bill of lading, but POD or invoice for payment,
Mhm.
then I'm assuming it's going to be where Seven Oaks will reach out to the dispatcher and say, hey, your carrier that you sent to us just submitted their first invoice for payment. What are your payment details? So we can go ahead and pay you as well. Correct?
Yes, well, some cases, yeah, we need to know that the carrier is using a dispatcher. This is as far as the dispatcher payment, not the referral payment, the dispatcher payment. So some dispatchers like to help the carriers also with sending the paperwork to the factoring company because they want to make sure that everything is turning correctly and on time and all, pretty paperwork, not cut off, not blurry. Everything is going to go through. So some dispatcher like to process the paperwork for the carrier and send the paperwork to the factoring company. So when they send the paperwork to factor the load, the invoice, they will sell, if it's $1,000 invoice and the dispatcher gets paid 10% of the load, on when they turn in the paperwork, they will say pay dispatcher such and such $100.
Okay.
That's how it goes. So we will just get the amount from either the dispatcher or the carrier that that's factoring, turning in the paperwork. So if we know they're working for certain dispatches, we're expecting to have a dispatch payment to send over.
So dispatchers can kind of leverage the relationship with Seven Oaks in an effort to get a carrier who doesn't have a factoring company to come on board with them to offer those services. You say, okay, well, Seven Oaks offers this, and this. If you allow me to dispatch for you, I can get you connected with Seven Oaks and get you these benefits and perks and features and go from there. So you can kind of leverage the factoring company as a dispatcher.
You're adding value to your services, proposing is a good service for them. Because, like I said, as soon as the MC or DOTX active, hundreds of factoring companies start calling, sending email, calling until they get the carrier sign up. And it's, once they are signed up, it's really hard for them to be able to have the dispatchers and the referral to the other factoring company, because once they sign up with a factoring company, they most likely are locked for a year. So that's why I like them to get the carriers new when they have not applied or, they don't sign up with a factoring company yet. So it's a
Can I ask you a question?
sure.
Okay, on the part where you pay the dispatcher, i- is that asked on every transaction or is that automatically known and you automatically do it? I know you said a little bit about the carrier will tell you, oh, pay the dispatcher this. Can that be within the contract when we sign up?
So I think Monica is saying the initial setup process for onboarding new carriers with a factoring company, the question will be asked whether or not that carrier has a dispatcher. And if it's affirmative, if it's true, then they'll continue down that rabbit hole of making sure that the dispatcher gets paid.
It's getting paid. That's
Okay.
when the dispatcher brought in the carrier, But if we
Okay,
have
that's what I wanted to know.
if we have a carrier that came by themselves, it's really up to them. We if they ask us to do it, we can pay a dispatcher, but it's, like I said, partnership is for us very important. So it's all kept on the same, in the same house,
So there's a difference of you, the dispatcher, acquiring a carrier and then who does not have factoring and then present Seven Oaks to them versus a carrier who already may have Seven Oaks but wants to roll you in because they just picked you up as a dispatcher and then they want you to include you in that service, right?
And also sometimes we have carriers that are looking for dispatchers. It's not really common, but sometimes I do have carriers that sometimes they are struggling to find a good dispatcher, and then I connect with the dispatcher numbers that I have, and I will send them off.
Yep, send them our way, Monica. You know us.
Yes. And the thing is that typically it's just box trucks that are struggling to find a dispatcher.
Yeah.
I know you don't move with them, but it's still hard. So, yeah.
Someone just asked.
That's,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. That's why I was asking because most of my payment issues be with box truck drivers. And if I had a factoring company, because I'm with RTS right now, but if I had a factoring company that would pay me my dispatching fee, that'd cancel that out because I don't want to dispatch for box trucks because of that reason.
Yeah. We love working with everybody. The box trucks, I know they're smaller and they're needy and they need a lot of supervision, and not all of them, but so that's what I said, that I like to work with startups because I'm patient enough to get those carriers in line. Explain to them exactly why things are being done a certain way and why they need to be on top of their account, being in good relationship with the dispatcher, making it easy for them to just drive and get paid and get the dispatcher paid. That's what we strive to do. So the carrier doesn't need to be worrying about collecting money or trying to figure out if he paid the dispatcher or not, or what load. And so for us, it's just to make it easy for them. I'm not sure how RTS has communication with carriers. Some, they're one of the big factoring companies. So yeah, it's for us, it's very personalized, the service that we provide.
Yeah, with my carriers with RTS, I do all the back office. They don't communicate with RTS.
Yeah, that's
But
a good way to
RTS
do it.
doesn't pay them. They don't pay them though.
So the
So
RTS
that's
would not pay your dispatching fees.
So wait a minute,
no.
wait. That doesn't make sense to me. So RTS does not pay the carrier, they pay who? The dispatcher?
No, they don't pay, I'm sorry, they don't pay the dispatcher fee.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say,
No, RTS cannot pay the dispatcher for the
that's what I was
load.
going to say. That's totally illegal. But
Yes. So the factoring
yes,
agreement is between the carrier and the factoring company.
the two
The
parties
main
on the
difference,
contract. That's correct.
yeah,
The
the
two parties
contract.
on the contract. That's correct.
We do have a contract. We don't have a term on the contract that we sign.
I,
We do
I
not.
thought I'm confused. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I thought you just said you paid the dispatcher fee.
The dispatcher fee. But what Charles is saying, the factoring company doesn't pay the dispatcher for the load, for the load that was moved.
Correct. So a carrier goes to a consignor. You dispatch a load for a carrier. He drives to a consignor, right, to pick it up, or a shipper or customer to pick it up, right? BOL signed it. They loaded it. Nothing's damaged, whatever, right? It's a clean load. Transported safely and securely to the consignee, to the receiver. Gets unloaded. Everything's good. It's a clean. There's no OS&Ds, no over shorts and damages. The receiver signs it. So now that BOL turns into a POD, proof of delivery, because that trailer is empty and the carrier has all the paperwork that they need as proof. That's their receipt, the invoice, basically, to get paid, because here's my proof that I did my job. Now, they're going to turn that in either to you, the dispatcher, to do it on their behalf, to give it to the factoring company, or they're going to do it themselves. Depends on the relationship they have with you, the dispatcher. In either case, the factoring company is going to pay the carrier, who they are contracted and obligated to pay. If there is an arrangement whereby the factoring company also pays the portion that's due to the dispatcher, then so be it. They will do that as well. That's what we're talking about.
That
Okay,
makes sense.
I understood. Yeah, I understood. I just was making sure.
Yeah. So yeah, with Seven Oaks, what we call a vendor pay. The carrier uses a dispatcher. Dispatchers for us are called vendors for the carrier. So we pay the carrier for the part of the load, and we also take care of paying the dispatcher their dispatching fees, which RTS is not willing to do. I'm guessing they're too big to do it. I'm not sure. But have you asked RTS if they will pay your dispatching fees?
Good luck.
No, they won't. Now they have went after my accessorials, but they haven't went after the dispatching fee.
Oh, okay.
So they went after your accessorials. I'm confused. So
that means your referral commissions?
So,
no, not my accessorials, but the carrier's accessorials.
So it's
Like um
accessorial
like
like
cho
detention, layover,
yeah,
bumpers, stuff like
yeah,
that.
they have one after they well, I won't say one after, but they've invoiced the broker the accessorial fees.
So what Vancia is referring to is carriers can make extra money on. So carriers are due contractually what the load pays. That's the rate of the load on the rate con, right? If there's anything that happens unbeknownst to the carrier, but the carrier can invoice the broker or direct shipper for, that term is called an accessorial. An example of one, carrier sits at a loading dock longer than necessary, right? Taking too long to load them or taking too long to unload them. That is called detention. Sometimes it's free after 2 or free after 3 hours. Anything after, let's say the carrier was sitting there 6 hours. Well, but the contract says free after 2, so you give them 2 or 3 hours. The other difference, they got to make up in detention so much per hour. Let's say $50 an hour, right? So they owe them another additional $300 for detention. So the carrier has to invoice either themselves or through their dispatcher if they allow their dispatchers to assist them with that for that type of accessorial called detention. The factoring company, if they're working with a factoring company, it's assumed that the factoring company will help them, and then obviously they'll go after the broker to get that money, recoup that money. So that's a different animal, right? We'll be here all night talking about accessorials, but that's how it works. Okay, Monica.
Yes.
You want to add anything else? Not accessorial, but just in general, as far as factoring or
I was just adding the pricing, which you already, you can fix it there. That's a 2% flat fee now. That's the carrier fee. And the only other fee or expense for factoring will be the bank fee, which is 2%, $2 for ACH, which is next day payment, and $15 for a wire if the carrier ever needs, urgent money or something. We'll have to send it the same day, and that's a $15 wire. We don't have any other fees like prime fee or monthly minimum fee or termination fee or setup fee. I don't know, because a lot of big factoring companies, they have the little fine print with extra fees. When they are ready to leave, they can't leave because if they want to leave early, they need to pay $2,500 termination fee.
oh no,
We don't have any of those. Yeah.
So I'm gonna add this while we're thinking about it right now. I'm gonna update this while we're like literally sitting right here. But so that's good. So all these fees are upfront, they're transparent, and they're known, right?
I'm sorry?
All these fees are upfront, transparent, and known.
Yes,
There's
we don't have any fine print or some surprises. The way I work, I give them all the information up front, so there's no surprises in the back. A lot of people that I talk to, they sign up and they say, well, my factoring company is doing this now, and I didn't know that, and so that's how I like to work. And for me, a relationship is good because when everybody's comfortable working together. If we force the carriers to work with us, that's not a good relationship. There is their business, and they take it what they want to take it. So that's the way we think, and that's the way we've been working for 28 years. We don't force the carriers to stay with us. They stay with us because they like our service, and it's a good partnership like that.
I like the sound of that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone have any other questions concerning factoring for Monica? Or just in general, while I update this right here, I'm literally doing it live while you guys see it.
The link would be that one, 7oakscapital.com express quote.
Some of those next steps they talked about with our Black.
I just saved it right here. Okay, so no questions?
Actually, yeah, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
Yes.
Ellis.
Yeah, now, so I just want, I'm just trying to see, is this for the dispatcher to have his own factoring, or is this factoring that you guys offer for carriers?
So factoring, so the clients of factoring companies are either motor carriers with an authority or freight brokers with a broker license, a broker authority.
Okay.
Dispatchers do not have factoring companies. That is impossible to have. Now, dispatchers can have a relationship
Yes.
through their carriers with a factoring company, but contractually, it's motor carriers and freight brokers. And correct me if I'm wrong, Monica.
Yes, you're correct. But factoring is business to business. Dispatching business is not a factoring, unless, you know, like lately we've been factoring mechanic shops that build large fleet owners. So, but dispatching is not a factorable account because, you know, you don't want to pay 2% on your fees that the carrier pays you. So it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah,
so.
it eats into your
Right.
profits.
No, okay, because
Yes.
I mean, I was just confused on that because I've
Oh,
heard,
yeah.
you know, that, I mean, you know, and it sounds
But-
like from what I had
but-
been hearing before in the past, like a dispatcher should have a factoring company. I mean, I could have just misinterpreted, and I'll probably lean more toward that than anything, but just for clarity's sake. So the dispatcher doesn't need the factoring
yeah.
company, it's the carrier or the broker.
Carrier has an agreement. You have a partnership with the factoring company,
Got you.
but you don't
So,
have to. Yeah,
in the
you don't
event that
sign
you
anything.
onboard a carrier, this is more of a reference from the dispatcher to the
It's
carrier. If they
It's
don't have a factoring
an
company.
added value to your offer to your carriers.
Right,
Right,
say, yeah, it's way more than a reference. It's more of a help to the carrier, especially if a carrier is new. They're gonna have trouble with monies.
Right.
No brokers that won't, you know, because they won't touch them if they're new. They don't have any experience, or at least their authority shows that they don't have any. You could be driving for 20 years as a company driver, but then decide to get your own operating authority.
Right.
You're like an infant. You looked at as a baby.
Right.
So,
and also for the owner operator, the carriers that just started, if they have been approved through a factoring company, brokers like to see that. Oh, okay, you know, there's some business going on. They're not just shady or anything. So
right, you can leverage that. You can leverage the fact you're a new carrier, but you've been approved through factoring. You're trying to get this nice load from a broker, but he won't give you a chance because of the age of your authority.
Right.
If you show him the fact that you got a factoring company that can back you up, he may give you a shot.
Okay. So now, as the broker, though, if the broker has a factoring company, how does that work in relation to the carrier not having a factoring company?
Well, then you can offer quick pay. You can offer different services to the carrier as a way to leverage to get that carrier to, especially if you want that carrier to run your loads.
So then, okay, so just let them know that you have a factor, that the broker has a factoring company to offer them quick pay.
correct. Because a lot of factoring companies will not approve new brokers. And when the brokers say, well, Seven Oaks pay all my carriers, we've been paying factoring companies for 10 years now on brokers loads. So it's another advantage as for a broker, for a new broker, to have a factoring company that pays all the carriers. So yeah.
What kind of referral commissions are there for sending you carriers?
Like I said, it's 10% of our 2% for life, for the life of the deal. So it depends on the volume, the type of loads. You know, there's certain type of loads that are, the invoices are a bigger amount, then you'll get a lot more commission. Box trucks are sometimes the ones that are coming, but you know, you can send one box trucks or 2 or 3, and your commission keeps going as the carrier continues to work. So even if you stop dispatching for that certain carrier, the carrier, they just don't like to work with you. They find somebody else, or their cousin, their friends, sign them up with another dispatcher. You still receive those commission, the factoring commission, because you're the one that brought them in, even if they're not dispatching with you anymore.
Now, can we do a number example of that? Like the numbers, like, so say, for example, a carrier submitted a $3,000 load, right?
So what's 2% of 3,000?
600, right?
2%, no,
60. I'm sorry, 60.
Yeah, 60. So on that load, your commission on one load is $6.
Because you get 10% of the 60.
Yes.
So you get 10%.
it doesn't sound like much, but it's a passive income.
Right. And I'm thinking about volume because your carrier may be coming in with invoice after invoice after invoice over a period of time.
Yes. And you have nothing else to do to receive your commission, but just continue to work with them. And even if you don't work with them, if the carrier stays working with us, you still receive your commission.
Right.
That's what the passive income or mail, what do they call it? Mailbox check.
Mailbox money. So I'm a witness to this, honestly, because Monica, I still get checks from
I know.
and I don't do anything. I don't do nothing.
Yeah. It's awesome. I have some dispatcher that, they started like, how long we've been kind of partnering, Charles, like 4 years?
Yeah, about 4 years, yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, so there was when you started, it was really a booming dispatching business. We had a lot of dispatchers sign up. And I have some that, they just quit dispatching. They just completely shut down the dispatching business because they thought, having a barbershop is more profitable. They still receive their dispatching fees because, the carrier keeps working with us. So we keep our carriers for a long time because we don't give them the pain, like no answering the phone or not, not help them out or just, I love to take care of them. I keep track of their account, as a business owner, the owner operators, they should be on top of their factoring account, but sometimes they don't. So I like to see, if any broker is taking too long to pay, what's going on, if there was an issue with paperwork or something. So it's because it's in my interest for those carriers to continue working.
So we've heard all the good. I want to play devil's advocate. And I don't want to call it bad, but there is another side to this, right?
But before you do that, I had one other question. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Because you gave a scenario, Charles, a couple of weeks ago. If, let's say, for example, if you have a shipper that's got 10 loads and needs 10 trucks, and through the factoring, is that percentage per truck or is that for everything?
It's per invoice amount.
Per invoice amount. Okay.
Yeah. So our fee is 2% for every
per invoice.
Per invoice.
Okay, that's all.
So you send 10 invoices, it's 2% of each invoice, and then your commission goes, based on the fees that we made working by your referral.
Got you. Understood.
One dispatcher asked me, it's 10% of all the fees from Seven Oaks? Like, no, it's the fee that we make by working with your referral. That's what we like to keep them moving, for a long time. So that's what, I take care of them really well so they can continue working. Yeah, that's what, Charles, some of your carriers, they're still with us for a long time because, we take care of them.
Yeah, I know. That's why why do you think we're still working together?
Yeah, they're surviving the hard times too. So
that's correct. They are. So I don't want to say the bad side, but the other side to factoring is this. And Monica can elaborate. I'm just gonna do the framework for it. You factor a load for your carrier, right? It gets factored, and the factory company pays the carrier when they turn in the PLDs and things like that. The factory company is like a bank. They still have to get their money, recoup their money. What happens if the broker, after the terms that the broker was supposed to pay, don't pay the factory company? What recourse does the factory company have? So that's the other side. Go ahead, Monica.
So when you sign an agreement, when the carrier signs the agreement with the factoring company, we do recourse factoring. So that means every money that goes out needs to come in. So we give the carrier the advance, the 95% advance, and then on 30 days, we start collecting on that invoice from the broker. Most of the brokers are good. We have them in the system. We've been working with them for a long time, but some of them, that's what we suggest, that the carrier or the dispatcher checks the MC number on the broker to make sure they are brokers that are good. So, but if in the case that we did collect all the way to 90 days and we're not able to collect that money from the broker, the carrier is liable for that invoice. And that's recourse factoring. What we do for our carriers, because like I said, we want them to keep working, we don't charge that whole invoice at once. We work with them and we said, okay, we're gonna take, I don't know, $50, $100 per invoice, or per this one day that you send us an invoice, the other day you another $50, like a payment plan, so we don't, forced to pay the whole invoice amounts back. So we work with our clients to pay that invoice off. And also we file on the broker's bond. The brokers are filing a bond, they have insurance. So if the broker doesn't pay, we file on their bond to recover at least some of that money back for the carrier. There are factoring companies that offer non-recourse, and there's a lot of mixed feelings about that. Some say that non-recourse factoring is more like a marketing pitch because they charge a higher percentage for non-recourse, but they will not approve a broker that they know is not going to get paid.
Right.
So it's up to the carrier. It's some of them, they just want that non-recourse, but there's a fine print to read on that offer. So
that's correct. So as a visual, here is recourse factory, right? So we got the big 90-day window right, that they have to pay. That the terms that the factory company offers, they'll pay upfront. Let's say, what is it, 95%, up to 95% of an invoice, right? That gets turned in. So let's say 95% of that invoice was like, so let's say $3,000. So 95% of that, 90% of that is $2,700. So let's say $2,750 or something like that. I'm not good at my math, but $2,750 out of the 3,000, 95%. Let's assume that that's the correct answer. So they give you upfront. When do you pay? Like
you can put the example on. You can even put the example on a full advance invoice. So if it's a 98% advance and a 2% fee.
Okay, and then you pay within, like, if depending on the time of day you turn the invoice in, you get paid same day or otherwise next day or something like that.
Yes, same day or next day.
What's your cutoff time? Like same day? What is that?
For same day, we need to receive everything by noon Central.
Okay, so
we can process all the wires on that same day, and the carrier receives their payment on that same day.
Okay.
And for ACHs, it's 1 p.m. And it works really well for us. Carriers send it before 1 p.m. and they get the money the next morning at a $2 ACH fee. And that $2 ACH fee is not per invoice. It's just a bank transaction. If it's one invoice or 20, it's just $2 ACH fee.
Gotcha. So ACH, for those who don't know, is an automated clearinghouse. That's a wire transfer with the routing number and the account number that you want the money to go into. Usually it's a checking account. They don't deal with savings, but the ACH deals only with checking, I believe, not savings. But it's a wire transfer. So automated clearinghouse bank, which is a bank transfer. So the factoring company pays this to the carrier up front. And they have to recoup, like Monica said, they're like a bank. What you put out, you got to get back. Right?
Yes.
Because that's how you make your money, So, and I understand everything, high level, everything. It makes perfect sense to me. So, but if the broker, because now once they pay you, the carrier, once the factoring company pays the carrier, the factoring company has to, in the 90 days, deal with this broker, making sure that they're going to recoup this money. And if the broker breaches that contract, right, or breaches that agreement, then the factoring company has no other recourse than to come after the person who they are contracted with when they gave the money to, which is the carrier. I got to get my money somehow.
Yeah.
So, but that's the
downside of factoring.
That's the downside of factoring, but the only downside of factoring, right? So, what is the minimum amount for payout on referrals? Someone just asked me that privately, but
the minimum amount of payout. Oh, we pay $2 fee, $2 commission. We send it out. So
Yeah,
it's,
I've gotten a $5.73 commission before. I'm like, why did they even send me this? But I went ahead and just deposited it. I just do it in there.
yeah, whatever 10% of the fees we made, that's what we send out. You know, it doesn't matter how much it is. And
Right, because it's just a contractual obligation. You gotta do
yeah,
yeah. So if your carrier did only a little bit of work and 2% of that equaled this and 10% of that was that, then I gotta give it to you. So
Charles, real quick, that
yeah.
little 90-day recourse factoring thing, could you give me that in layman's terms? I heard what you were saying, but it didn't quite click. It could just
so
be
if the invoice is for $1,000, the factoring company needs to receive that $1,000 payment, and then
Within
when
90 days, right?
within 90 days to close out the invoice.
To close
Once
out
the invoice is closed, they release that 3% to the carrier.
Gotcha.
They need to receive the full amount of the invoice to close the invoice out.
And
So
that's coming from the shipper.
The 3% is the reserve, right?
Yes, that's the reserve that we hold. So
Okay.
So
And-
Mr. Ellis, you're my dispatcher. So let's break it down. We'll put it in layman's terms for you. You're my dispatcher. I'm the carrier. Monica is the factoring company. We're factoring with Monica, right? I do $1,000 load. And she advances me 95% of that, right? Which is what? $950, 95% of
so
1,000.
you get $948 the next day.
Right. So they took the 2% out, right? So the next day you get that. So now within 90 days, they're the factoring company now, because they fronted me $948 as a carrier. Within 90 days, the broker has to fund the factoring company. They have to recoup that money that they fronted you. They gave me, I should say, the carrier up front. It's like remember those payday loan check cashing spots you would go to borrow money or to put your check up 2 weeks in advance to get some money? It's the same concept. Well,
it's the same concept, yes.
Yeah. They charge like 4,000%. But anyway, yeah,
we're a lot more friendly though.
Okay.
right.
I'm just trying to understand that part of it. I get all the fees and everything else. I'm just waiting. Hold on. So in other words, so if the carrier got the advance, then that the shipper would have, or the broker has to get back the 1,000 to the factoring company.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Within 90 days. And if they reach that, then it's they have no other recourse or no other means but to go after the person they advance the money to, which is the carrier.
Carrier,
They'll
right.
say, hey, your broker didn't pay us. We paid you. We have to get our money back somehow.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so then that's all based on the shipper then, correct? So, I mean, the broker getting paid by the shipper.
It's based on the broker, but you're kind of right. It's based on the broker who indirectly gets tendered loads to them from the shipper.
From the shipper, that, okay.
Right,
So, I mean,
but the relationship directly, not indirectly, but directly is between the factoring company and the broker.
Right, no, I got that part, but I'm saying, but the $1,000 has to come from the shipper to the broker in order for it to go back to the factory.
The shipper will probably be paying $1,500.
Right.
And the broker.
Correct, because the broker only gave that load to the carrier for $1,000 because they took too much off the top from the shipper when they got tendered. It may have gotten tendered to them for $2,000. They put it on the load board for $1,000, and then the carrier bid on it and took it for $1,000. The broker has $1,000 in their pocket already as their profit margin.
Right.
But it needs to be clear though that the broker carrier agreement is it's a service that the carrier is giving to the broker. So the factoring company is just in the middle. So we are collecting on behalf of the carrier, you know. So that's why it's important to know, because some carriers say, well, you already pay me. I don't need to worry about that. Yes, you do. It's still, that broker owes you money because of the service that you did. So sometimes we have to work together for the carrier to push a little bit and call the broker, the person that gave him the loan, and tell, hey, what's going on? My factoring company has been calling you and emailing you for 3 months. Where's my payment? I did the load, pay me. Send the money to the factoring company. So we work together with our carriers with a lot of communication to know what's going on with their payments. We let them know, this is what happened here, why they're not paying, it's important. because sometimes we have had for example, a carrier that factored with a big factoring company years ago, and they say, well, I haven't been working with them for a long time, and they want to sign up with us. And so we request this old factoring company and said, hey, can you release this carrier because they want to work with us? Oh no, they have an invoice for $2,500 for 3 years that has not been paid. So the carrier, before the former factoring company can release them, the carrier will have to pay the $2,500. They didn't even know that it was out there, that the broker never paid. So that's what's very important for owner operators to carriers to be on top of their account.
That's a great point.
Yeah. It's I've seen that so many times, and the poor carriers, they get stuck because they don't have the $2,500. They don't want to. It was 3 years ago. But nobody told them anything. They didn't check. They didn't, they went out of business. They came back to business, but they had that old debt that they didn't even know about. So yeah, for any business owner, it's important to be on top of your business. So I always tell the carriers, treat your factoring company like it's your bank account. Constantly check it. You need to be accessing to everything regarding your account. And a factoring company that does not give that access is not, the carrier needs to have access and access the account. So yeah, it's important in that point too.
So it's good that we begin to have a little bit more of a deeper dive and a thorough understanding of the concept of factoring now, even from a dispatcher's perspective, because if you're working with a carrier who doesn't have it and you're able to offer this service and you're able to communicate this to them clearly and for them to understand, because they may not even know some of the benefits of having this type of services, how much the factoring company goes to bat for the carriers. You can as a dispatcher, you can leverage that.
It's very important to understand that part, because there is a lot of new carriers that are immediately signing up with a factoring company. So they might not even have a dispatcher yet, but they've already signed up with the factoring company that was calling from day one. So it's important for the dispatcher to understand factoring really well, so you can work with the factoring company and help that carrier stay on top of their account and help them out as much as you can, to get those payments going too. It's, in my opinion, if you want to keep your clients alive and continue to have your client and dispatch for your client, you got to provide as much help as you can, because just finding the load, and that's sometimes it's, finding the load and getting paid for the load, that's good. But you want that carrier to stay alive for, running for a long time. So that's that's how I see it. Yeah.
Good. Any final questions for Monica? I know Monica's busy, so I don't want to keep her too long.
It's okay.
Any questions? Any more questions for Monica and the concept of factoring? Anyone?
Just one question.
Yes, sir.
Who is
Just
this?
Wondering,
Lower.
you work with carriers. Do you work with brokers as well?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Most factoring companies want the broker to have already business going on, because it's every factoring company that runs an application for a broker will run the credit. So if they don't have any business going on, there's no point to run a credit if there's nothing going on yet.
So what is your minimum book of business requirements for Seven Oaks to work with a broker? Or do you have one?
We don't have a minimum for any of our clients, but for a broker, we recommend that they have at least have some potential clients that they're looking to pursue as clients and give us some information, because the factoring company, for brokers, the advantage of dealing with a factoring company is the factoring company can vet those shippers for you. Right. So for the broker, we'll find out if they are their credit worthiness, if they have a bad pay, we find out if they paid 120 days, you don't want to pursue that company as a client. So we have that for brokers. We have to approve the client as a factorable account. And for brokers, we factor the broker invoice and also take care of paying the carrier. So everything is running smoothly, and the broker doesn't need to be worrying about paying the carrier. So it's a whole other story.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, his question partially, but then I wanted to add on like I said, that's one of the benefits of me signing my drivers is that they don't have to worry about nothing. So I capitalize on the fact that I provide all back office support. Um, do you
including
guys, I
factoring.
know you said that is correct. I know, yeah, when they send me all of the documentation, I send it in. Only time they speak with my factoring representative is if it's something I can't resolve. I can even go into the system, and they have access to go into the system too. But I can
Yeah.
go into the system and see when the broker paid, the factoring company, all of that. And that's what I was going to ask you. Do you, in your system, do you have a system like that?
Yes, we do. So what we do is, so the carrier gets access to all of that, to the app, to the
Hmm.
portal and all that. And you just share the information with you so you can help them out, stay on top of everything. Yeah, that's another way that we work with dispatchers very closely. They help us out a lot because eventually the dispatcher is the one that talks to that broker, you know? So,
Yeah,
uh,
because see, with me as a dispatcher, I'm not going to wait that 90 days,
oh, perfect.
that 90th
Exactly.
day to see if you got paid. If I can see that you hadn't got paid, then I'm gonna reach out to the broker for my carrier and inquire on why that payment hasn't been made. That's part of my
Yes,
back
correct.
office.
That's really a good thing, a way to do business because you want to keep your carrier alive. The carrier is not going to understand because you help them to get the load, sign up with that load. So they probably not have no idea why the broker is not paying. I don't know. I mean, I did the load, I turned in my paperwork. I don't deal with anything of that. My dispatcher does that. So
Exactly.
factoring company, we work closely with dispatchers. We love them because they help us in that way, you know. So the idea
And
is to keep the carriers
I'm
going.
sorry.
You go
Yeah, I
ahead.
just found out throughout the years, the less the carrier puts their hands on anything, the less problems you have. Once they start
Exactly.
digging and questioning, then they feel like they don't need you.
Mm. But then, you know, it depends, you know, like I said, a good relationship is when the both parties are involved and they want to continue
Hmm.
to be involved. That's a good relationship. But so openly is, you know, because the carrier sometimes doesn't understand really well everything. So it's nicely just continue to work with them to support them in that back office work, you know. Um, and they learn to appreciate that. But yeah, they do have the right to have access to everything. We cannot deny the carriers to be
Yeah.
involved, to get involved with their account. So
Yeah, because
even
it's
No,
if
their account.
dispatcher
they
is
They have
helping
do.
more of
out.
a right to it than the dispatcher. It's their account.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
they do, but a lot of drivers don't feel like it unless it's like the end of the month or something and they trying to calculate their bills and all of that.
Mhm.
But most of my drivers, 99% of my drivers, they I'm basically I'm more than a dispatcher to
Yeah.
them.
I
I'm a
believe you.
more like a personal secretary
Yeah.
when it comes to dispatching.
Yeah.
So I provide a little bit more.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I'm sure you charging more than 5% or 6%. So because you're
Oh
doing a
yeah.
lot more for them, because you're doing a lot more for them. Yeah. And it's a way to do business and a way to keep your carriers going. And I'm sure once you help them out with something that they don't understand, like for example, I take the time to tell the drivers how to scan a bill of lading with your phone. Some of them don't know how to do that. So when they find out,
Mhm.
they will remember me forever just because I taught them how to do something.
Yeah,
So, and I know
absolutely.
your service and your support for them is valuable. So, yeah. And then they bring another carrier to work with you, you know, because
Mhm.
they talk. They're on the road, they talk to other people, they hear somebody complaining, and then hey, my dispatcher does this for me. Call her.
Yeah, I was telling
My,
Chasa, I have never made a cold call. Every single one of my drivers have been word of mouth.
that's exactly how we work too. We don't harass carriers when the MC gets active. We don't because we don't want to be one more factoring company calling, emailing. It's just not how we work. It's horrible what the carriers go through, and you know, unfortunately, sometimes they sign up and they get locked in and all that, but we just prefer the referral partnership. So it works a lot better for us. So, but we take everybody, you know, small carriers, big fleet owners that are not happy, you know, with the factoring company. We can do something that's called a buyout. You know, we can transfer the carrier from another factoring company. We buy the account, we buy the open invoices from
Even though the terms of the previous contract hasn't expired yet, you can still buy them out.
yes. So we buy them. I mean, it's on the carrier. Is their decision. If they're not happy with their factoring company, they have the right to go and find somebody else. And those two factoring companies need to work. So if, for example, I have a carrier that is not satisfied with my service and they go with any other factoring company because they offer them 1.5% non-recourse. So they want to leave. Or they just because of the pricing, they want to leave. So we don't tell them, well, you have to wait 1 year, or, you know, you have to wait until May of 2026 to leave. If not, well, I'm going to charge you $2,500 early termination fees for this other factoring company to buy your account from us. We don't do that. You want to leave? Okay, so this is your current aging report. Present that to your new factoring company or the one who want to work. We receive a wire transaction for all those open invoices and we issue a release letter. That's how we work. We don't charge termination fees. We don't hold the carriers for a certain time, you know. A lot of factoring companies would do that. They have agreements, they cannot get out. They have to send out termination letters not earlier than 90 days and no longer than 120 days.
Wow.
So it's stressful. The carrier needs to find out they want to leave, but they have to put on the calendar exactly the day when the moon and the planets align to send the termination letter. So it's you know, and I am very diligent in following up with the carriers that told me that they're interested. I'll call them again and say, hey, remember you wanted to switch. Remember your termination day. And sometimes they do. Sometimes it happens, you know. But that's why we don't lock them into a term, because we believe in just freedom. It's their business, so they take it where they want to take it. So, but we take any carriers. We work with other factoring companies to get them released, you know, with their respecting their due terms, you know. So yeah.
That's very interesting.
If y'all have any questions, my contact information is there. I've been partnering with Charles for several years, but my daughter, she's graduating high school, and she played volleyball for all of these 4 years. So I was not able to come and, you know, and sit here in the sessions because of that, you know, and we run around with her playing volleyball all year. So now I'm free on Wednesday nights. So I'll be checking in, you know, just to offer information. It's I love what I do. I love the industry. It's been really, I've learned a lot, and I love sharing what I've learned. So even if you don't do business with me, I like people. I love helping people, and I like the relationship that I build through this work that I do. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Monica. Appreciate your time.
No problem. There's my direct line right there.
Yeah, I put it in the chat.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a lot more, you know, that you can learn. Any questions about factoring? I know we have a chat group and all that on Facebook. I'm not that active. Maybe I will be a little bit more now, but I do a lot of work. I do marketing, I do sales, I do business development, partnerships, all of that in one.
Are you going to be at the Georgia Logistics Summit, or are you going to be at the one in Indianapolis?
No, please tell me. I want to go places. Please tell me about that. We usually go and have a booth, the Seven Oaks booth at the Mid-America Trucking Show.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
large. So we always go there. We go to these trucking shows in Texas and Florida. But this year we decided not to spend the money because, you know, the industry is a little, slacking right now. So we're kind of keeping our budget low as far as trade shows. But me personally, taking a flight to go and meet people, I would love to do that. They're not against doing that. So we do that. So yeah, Charles, send me. I would love to. I have never met you personally, and I would love to
No
meet
problem.
you if we can meet somewhere. And
You're still
it's
in Louisiana. You're still in
it's
Louisiana.
time. It's time. Like I
It
said,
is.
my daughter's graduating high school, and so I have more time to do more work on relationship. Even though I'm
Yeah.
gonna be a grandmother, though my son's having a baby in May. So, I mean in July, but they live away. So yeah, I mean I would love, send me the summits that you have. There's a lot new stuff coming up, new AI partnerships and technology companies, all kinds of new things. I love to learn everything. So
And thank you for the cake you sent me.
the king
Yeah,
cake.
the Mardi Gras gift. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we do that. It's our thing. I'm from we're in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge. So king cakes is our way to love our partners, and
Yeah, king cake.
at least we do that. We would love to do a lot more, but it's just time consuming to do all the stuff that I do. So
I own a car wash. I took the cake down to the car wash and it disappeared in about an hour. My employees ate it up. So
oh my goodness.
yeah, exactly.
We'll
So
send two next time.
yeah. But
Okay, so there's a few questions that I would not want to not answer. Hickson Kyoto. What kind of referral commission is there for sending you? If you shoot me an email, I will send that referral information back to you. And even our referral letter, so we can kind of sign up.
Is
have
it
you
a
down.
is it a Word or a PDF? What I can do is I can add it to the site right here as a download. That way they can come directly to the website and just print it out for themselves.
The referral
If
oh
it's
yeah, the referral program, sure.
yeah, like if it's a
Yeah.
document that I can put up next to your information that they can just download it from here from the location. That way it'll be in one centralized location. They can just go grab it.
Express code 90. I mean, what do you have? 80% flat funding fee, the percent of camera. Okay, so
all the questions, I think because I'm scrolling through the chat and I think we've answered all.
yeah, we can put a link for the referral, the referral. I'll send you a flyer or something, and you can put a QR code or a link or something that takes them to that referral flyer. So
Definitely.
with the referral information, yeah.
Definitely. Just send it to my email and I'll take it from there.
Or just email me. I got my email on my phone, so I can email, call anytime. Yeah. Like I said, I love what I do, so I'm always available. Yeah. Okay, so
Okay.
all right. But like I said, while I do this flyer on the referrals, you can email me your information and I'll email you back the referral information so you can have it in writing.
Will do.
Okay. Any more questions for me?
Any final questions for Monica, guys? So tonight was just specifically about factoring. I'll do a little Q&A before we get off. But
No, thank you for elaborating. I've been listening to you for years, but I didn't get the gist of 100%. This is my first time in depth listening to what your factoring company have to offer. So thank you.
Yes. Yeah. And I heard you were RTS, so that's fine. RTS is really good at signing up ambassadors. So
I'm thinking about going with you with my box truck drivers. I'm thinking about that. So
yeah,
I will be
I
shooting
mean,
you an email.
if they want to switch, they're welcome. If you have new ones, bring them in because you're not a dispatcher.
It'll be for new ones.
Yeah. Because as a dispatcher, you're not obliged to work with only one factoring company. Because it's a free country. If the carrier likes me better than RTS, send them in to me. I mean, you can work with as many factoring companies as you can, and if they pay your referral commission, even better. Yeah.
Okay, thank
you. All righty. Any final questions before we let Monica go? Okay. All right, Monica, thanks.
Thank you. Send me that information about the summit. I would love to check in there.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. All right, guys. That was Monica Case from Seven Oaks Factory. She's been doing it for over 25 years. So she knows her stuff.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Lexi.
Yeah, I have a question for you. So I was going through one of the videos you did for the route planning,
Okay.
and I noticed that during the training there were some routes that during that day the trip was just about 2.5 hours to deliver the load.
Uh-huh.
But that same day there was nothing else planned for that day, and I'm like, are you limited to just one load per day? Because I was a little bit confused depending on how long it took to just deliver that load.
Depending on the distance of the load, you could be limited for that one day. If you can get a load done within an amount of time where you have enough time to pick up another load, then you will
Okay.
not be limited for that day.
Okay.
So it depends on the length of miles or the number of miles and the number of hours you're doing in that day to but if you have an over-the-road carrier, I would imagine that they're going to only want to do one load. If they're going to be over the road, they're going to be doing a large amount of miles, like 500-600 miles a day. So you would that they're only doing one load a day.
Yeah, because I think because when I was watching the video, it was just about, some of them were about 100 miles and 90 miles, 2.5 hours to deliver, and I'm like, oh, you should be able to still do another one during that day. But I thought, since it wasn't discussed during the meeting, the question didn't come up that they were limited to.
Right. So even though you have such a short distance and amount of time for those loads, you still have to consider the amount of time you get to a facility and how long they take to offload or load that equipment, right? That trailer. So you got to still factor that stuff in too. So let's say I found my carrier a load for from where they are, they're 20, their current position, and it's like 90, 100 miles off the road, right? So that's going to take 2.5 hours to get there. Okay. You're thinking like, well, maybe I can find them another load. But wait a minute, you get there, it's 4 hours to offload the load. Something happens. You got to factor in these unexpected occurrences sometimes, because in transportation, it's a very volatile industry. Anything can happen. So you have to factor in load times, offload times, any type of detention, those things. So for me, I would suggest for dispatchers to work with over-the-road carriers, OTR carriers, with whom you book longer distance loads, like 300, 400, 500-mile loads, as opposed to doing short loads, short multiple loads per day, as opposed to one long load that's going to take a day and a half, maybe 2 days. So now you wouldn't have to worry about whether or not you can find them their next load or multiple loads in one day.
Okay, great. That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it cuts down on the confusion and the frustration, right? If you try to, because some carriers, they want to stay, they want to pretend to be over the road carriers, but they want short loads, like same day, I want to be home every night type of loads, but you want over the road pay. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Or just like, and I hate to say this like this, but sometimes you have some box truck carriers who want tractor trailer money. That's not going to happen, right? You have a box truck, which is half the size of a tractor, which is a 53-foot trailer. Your trailer, the most, is 26 feet. There is no way, unless the value of the commodity is almost the same as a tractor trailer. Even then, the length of the trailer, a tractor trailer can hold 53 feet. You can put more commodities in a tractor, a 53-foot trailer, than you can in a 26-foot box truck. So it just makes sense. The numbers don't add up, right? So, you gotta. So when if you're going to be dealing with box truck carriers, you got to prepare yourself mentally to be able to, almost like a counselor, because you got to convince them, like, look, man, you're trying to get over the road money, but you have a box truck. Unless you drive over the road almost the same amount of time as a tractor trailer carrier, even then, your trailer is not long enough like a trailer for a 53-foot trailer, So these are some of the things you deal with as a dispatcher too. Sometimes you become a counselor, a therapist, if you will, so, but.
Great. Thank you.
And my thing is, I'm with Charles. I don't suggest starting off with the box trucks because you have to venture into a whole new dimension with them. You have to introduce yourself to LTLs and everything. So you want to get the principles and learn the techniques of the industry first with the three main equipment types before you venture into box truck dispatching. Because
That's
if you venture into box truck dispatching first, you won't last a year.
load hour logistics. You have your hand raised.
Yes, I have a unique question. I wanted to learn the industry from all sides of it. So what I did was I became a customer. And first thing I noticed is when I put the car,
A customer being a shipper customer?
no, a customer meaning I wanted something shipped from Detroit to Kansas.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So you're like the receiver. You're the consignee.
Yes.
Okay.
So I signed up, and the first thing I started getting is all these lowball offers. I'll move the car for 300. I'll move it for 350. Then I sign up. I say, okay, maybe gonna put it on a trailer with more than one car on it, and they can do it that way. So right after that, then I started getting all these other the same guy. He's texting me and saying, well, it's gonna be $1,200. And I say, well, we signed the agreement on 300. And that's what you agreed to me. Then he started blaming it on the broker. So I waited 7 days and ended the contract. And then I finally got with this other company, and it ended up costing me $875. Got the car shipped down here. There was two drivers in the truck. And then, and I always ask this question when I'm paying anybody. I say, so how much do I owe you? To make sure we're on the same page. He said, well, it's 750. I'm not sure if the other 25 goes to the broker. Didn't you say a carrier never pays a broker?
That's correct.
So I asked him, was he double brokering? He said no. So I said, okay, well, I paid him the money. And then he asked me, do I want to bill a lady? I said, of course I want to bill a lady. So he went to his truck. They acted like they was about to pull off. So we went to the truck and got our change. And he went ahead and texted bill a lady.
So he gave you the bill of lading after receiving payment. So
Yes.
you see what I want you guys to hear what the gentleman just said, right? This whole process. This was a car hauling transaction,
Yes.
and you hauled it to Detroit. You from Detroit?
Yes.
What up, though? I'm from Detroit.
What side of Detroit you from?
I went to Chassis High School.
I went to Southeastern and Denby,
Oh yeah,
East Side.
yeah, east side. So you did a transaction. So are you familiar with um a load board that deals with car hauling carriers called Central Dispatch?
Yes.
You are. Okay. Are you also familiar? Well, I'm not going to say that part, but I don't want to get too advanced with it. But so Central Dispatch is where you go find carriers to haul your vehicles, whether it's one vehicle or multi vehicles. There's another one called U-Ship, right? I'm sure you're familiar with U-Ship also. But the way that went down sounds like a double brokered transaction, because you were supposed to get a lot of the documentation and contractual stuff up front first prior to payment, right? I don't know. Now most auto haul stuff though, sometimes, well, not sometimes, most times it's like COD, right? Cash on delivery. You do the transaction and you pay them after they deliver, things like that. So, but yeah, that sounded kind of weird in my opinion to me. And it even felt weird to you because you said the guys seemed like they'd get ready to get up and leave and run, take the money and do that. Do I pay the broker as a carrier? Carriers never pay brokers. That doesn't even make sense. That's the reverse way. A carrier doesn't owe a broker fund. So when a carrier contracts with a broker, they're contracting to do the work. They're not contracting to give the work, right? The broker is the one who arranges for the transportation of the freight, whether it's cars, whether it's other types of commodities, not the other way around. So that right there should have been a red flag, right? I'm not saying it to you, I'm just saying in general, should have been a red flag to say, okay, what's going on here, right? And then checking the credentials of the person, the party that's doing the transaction for you, to make sure that they are who they say they are, or if they should prove to you that they are who they say they are, as far as authority and things like that also. So, but that sounded kind of weird to me. I don't know, but you got everything that you needed to get. You paid for it. Are you satisfied with what you got? How much you paid? Was it a good rate? Things of that nature. Are you okay with everything?
Yeah, I'm okay with all of that. I just hated to see the industry. 2 times they were shooting me those prices and then telling me, well, this what it was on the low board for last, and this is what we're going off of. And it was really just to sucker me in with that low ball price.
Of course. Yeah.
But it was really nice to see it from that side, and it showed me what I will and will not do to a customer.
Right, the experience. So like you said, you did it an unconventional way. You start off as a customer, and you went backwards and came up to the front and seeing how things work. Well, you seen how things work the wrong way, but you still got done what you needed to get done. So,
and I know how it should be done the right way now.
And you know how it should be done the right way. A transaction for a shipment, if it's done, I should say it like this: the parties for a transaction for a shipment in transportation typically are the customer, the broker, the motor carrier, and then indirectly a dispatcher who represents the motor carrier, right? And then so the customer tenders freight to the broker if they are working. So customers work either with brokers or they work directly with trucking companies. Let's say, for example, I'm a customer. For this example, I'll work with a broker just so we can bring home the point. So I'm a customer. I decide to use a broker instead of me, the customer, going directly through a trucking company or a carrier with a fleet of trucks, because I don't want to deal with all the paperwork with it. I'm a shipper. I'm too busy dealing with my freight. So I'll say I'll just pay a broker to handle all that back end stuff. So I decided to do that. Because again, a customer can either work with a broker or a direct carrier, a fleet of trucks. I did the broker side. So I tender or send a contract to a manifest of a tender to a broker. They decide if they want to accept or reject the tender based off of the numbers. Or I request for them a rate quote or a lane bid to see if they know what they're talking about. Let's say that they did know what they were talking about as a broker. So they give me a nice rate, something that I say, well, I can pay them that. So I send them over a load tender, they accepted it. So now the broker is responsible for moving my commodity from my shipping facility to my customer's facility, which is the consignee, the receiver, right? So now the broker has that responsibility. So now the broker is going to take that tender, chop off of their profit margin, put it on a load board, and find a motor carrier to move that freight, right? They find a motor carrier who happens to have a dispatcher, one of you guys, doing it. You, the dispatcher, on behalf of your carrier, talk to me, the broker, come up with an agreement of a rate or whatever that rate is. Everybody agrees to it. Now I, the broker, send to you, the dispatcher, on behalf of your carrier, a broker carrier agreement, because your carrier, dispatcher, is not an approved carrier for my brokerage yet. Their MC did not show in my system. So I need to vet that carrier, get them qualified into my system. I need their MC, their certificate of insurance, their W-9, you know the paperwork to get them qualified. Get them in my system. Send over the rate con for the amount that we agreed for your carrier dispatcher to move my brokered load to my customer's customer. Okay? You guys are still with me, right? I'm taking you down the yellow brick road of the transaction. So now your carrier dispatcher goes to my shipping facility or my customer's shipping facility, because I'm the broker now, to pick that load up, transport it safely and securely to the consignee or the receiver to deliver it. They deliver it successfully. There's no overs, shorts, or damages, no claims filed. Everything is good. They get a receipt of the delivery, which is the BOL turned into a POD. Because when they came to the shipper to pick the load up, they got a BOL, a bill of lading, which is the manifest of the goods. When they got to the receiver to deliver those goods, that BOL turned into a POD because that trailer was offloaded at the receiver. And the receiving facility signed for it and took possession of the freight. That's how it works all the time. That is the process. Once you understand the process from a high level, you could put any player in it. Understanding the concept is where you as a dispatcher need to be at. So when you do get a carrier, you would understand the logic and how shipments work and transactions are implemented, right? You'll be able to do it easily. So hopefully that was a little helpful.
So this company charged me $100 fee up front, but I had them give it to me in writing that if this didn't work out, that I'm gonna get my money back. And I paid them through PayPal because PayPal don't play. They'll take your money back for you. So I felt okay right there. But on our end as dispatchers, we get paid after the transaction. What you think happened there?
So you didn't get paid. So this company, this was a carrier company that was supposed to transport the car from A to B.
Charles, 1 minute they was being a dispatcher, and then the next minute they was acting like a broker, and it was just something really weird about it. I could forward you the bill of lading if you like.
Yeah. So are you one of our students? Are you a guest? Because I'm trying to figure out.
Mikhail Battles.
Oh, Mikhail, man, the moment you felt any kind of funniness about this situation, you should have called me. The moment you felt it, before you signed anything, before you did a transaction, we could have nipped this in the bud quick.
Yeah.
And that goes for everyone. If I don't care who you are, where you are, at a reason. I'm gonna say this now. I'm a married man, so at a reasonable time, you can call me. But call me if you get involved in any transaction that you are not clear about and you have a funny sense about. Give me a call or a text, right? And I will definitely get on the phone and be like, nope, you're not doing this. Nope, or you're not doing that. Nope, knock it off. Nope, stop it, right? So, because
What's your email, Mr. Charles?
Huh?
What's your email?
exoduslogisticsllc at yahoo.com. I'm gonna text it in. I'll put it in the chat. So you're sending me over the bill of lading?
Yeah, I just sent it. And it got the original company name in it. I didn't want to say it on the recording because they might didn't do nothing wrong at all. I don't know.
Understood. Yep. So, and I'll open it up later on offline and take a look at it. But yeah. So any funny anything that you here's how you gauge that though, guys. If it goes against the grain of how you normally would do your transactions as a dispatcher, then something's wrong, right? Normally, us as new dispatchers, we typically deal with brokers, right? Us new dispatchers don't deal with direct customers yet because our carriers haven't had enough years of experience or haven't had enough load movements to work directly with the shippers yet. It's coming, but it just hasn't happened yet. So the only other option is to go through brokers. So you as a dispatcher, you're going to be dealing with a lot of brokers from loads on the load board. You're calling them and seeing if you can negotiate a more rate, put your percentage on top of it, things of that nature. So, and then you're going to tell the broker, your carrier's MC, to see if that MC is part of that brokerage. And if it's not, you got to go through the onboarding process. It's basically the same thing over and over again. It's just different brokers, different carriers, so on and so forth. So if anything does not align with that, then that's a problem. Okay? That's a problem. Because that's been the standard forever. That's how it's always been done. So if it goes against the standard, then it's not the standard. Simple. I mean, I can't put it no plainer, right? So, and if you're in a situation where you're actually on the phone and you're doing a transaction and you got one of these fast talkers trying to talk you into doing something that you're not comfortable with, please, I'm begging you on this recording, three-way me directly.
Okay.
All right? You heard it first on this recording. Please three-way me. We will knock this and we'll nip it in the bud. And then you'll gain more experience from it, because I've had experience doing this. I can't even count the number of times that has happened. So I know all the signs. In other words, I recognize the signs. I know what they try to do. And it's a shame that we have people that are still out there doing malicious behavior like this in order to make a buck, right? It's so much easier. It takes less energy and effort to do things the right way than it does the wrong way. It takes too much energy and effort to do things the wrong way, right? And that's in life, right? It takes a lot of energy to do the bad stuff. It doesn't take you anything. It's not a lot of energy, enough effort to do something right, because it's coming from the heart. You don't need all the energy. You just do it because it feels right. But you got to premeditate this nonsense, do dirty stuff, try to trick people. That's too much energy. That's wasted time, wasted space. I don't have time for that. So I got too much going on. And I want to make sure because you guys are like family, this program is my baby. I've been doing this program since 2019. So my child is 6 years old right now. So pre-adolescence. So you know how you protect your kids from predators? That's what I'm doing with you guys. I'm protecting you from predators. You see? And that's how I look at it. That's the analogy I use. You see? So I want to keep you guys protected and make sure you're doing it the right way. Go ahead, sir. Your hand's raised.
Last question. And thanks for the answer. If a person was financially able, would you recommend that they start off as a dispatcher or a freight broker?
If you were financially able, well, whether you're financially able or not, I would recommend a dispatcher and then transition into a broker, even though you have the funds to start a brokerage, just to get the experience on the dispatcher side, because as a dispatcher, you're going to touch carriers, conversate with them, and you're going to touch brokers and conversate with them because you're finding loads for your carriers with the broker. On the broker side, even though you have the means to become a broker, it'll be a challenge because the age of your license is new. Most shippers are not going to give you an opportunity yet unless, like Monica says, you leverage factoring. So, okay. And here's another option too.
So you get your brokerage, you do your dispatching for a little while, the age of brokerage, then you of course, get your factoring company in order and then make moves.
Ding, 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 ding. Or you work as a dispatcher and go under someone else's brokerage as an agent to get the experience as well. Yep. So you're getting the experience. You don't have the broker authority, but you're getting the experience of a broker because you're going through their systems, their processes, their workflows, their TMS system, their load boards. You're building loads, you're creating rate cons, you're understanding how that's done. You're going through the day-to-day of being a broker, right? As an agent. You're not just making cold calls. Well, it depends on how much responsibility that broker allows you to have based off of the initial assessment and interview or discussion between you and that broker. They may just say, hey, you just do cold call for a few months until we feel comfortable bringing you into our TMS system. And then we'll bring you into our TMS system until you feel comfortable with building a load or doing the Raycon. They should never, no broker should never allow the agent to ever handle the financial piece of their brokerage. That is completely the broker's responsibility because it's their brokerage, right? So they never handle the finance side. They go up, they only go up as far as, tendering loads, creating Raycons, and assessing and monitoring that truck while it's moving that freight. Never handle the financial. So if you guys ever decide to create a brokerage and you bring on agents, do not let them handle the financial piece. That is your responsibility as a broker. That's free advice. If you do, trust and believe you're going to have some issues with money. I don't care if it's Pope Francis, God rest his soul, he just passed away, or Mother Teresa. You're going to have some issues with money. Okay?
Take it from me.
Yep. So yeah, so just be careful on the financial piece. Protect your business. It's your business, and the quickest way for a business to fall is from a financial perspective, from a financial standpoint. So protect that piece. You can have the best agent in the world. He could have been a person from a former brokerage, had his own broker authority and did everything, but he's coming to your authority. You still handle the financial piece. It could be Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, I don't care who it is. So just do not trust people with the money aspect of your company. That is your responsibility. Okay? Just free advice. I'm here all week. Okay, guys, any final questions? I'll let you guys go. I ain't gonna hold you too long. I try not to hold a lot of 2-hour sessions anymore. At least an hour and a half. Like last night, we had our broker course for just an hour, which is cool. We got to the point, and that was it. So, hey, Zoe, what's going on, girl? So, and then Shiante, look, my 75757 in the building.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. So, any final questions before we get off? And this recording will be in our portal. Mr. Ellis, I think I got an email from my wife. I think she sent you the login credentials to get to the back office for the dispatch side. So you should have an email coming from her.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't see your broker side yet. You probably didn't enroll yet, but I did
But
see
no, it was because there's two different business bank accounts, so I have to separate them.
Understood.
Yeah, so I have to do that one under, and the issue with my brokering, well, not necessarily the issue, but on the dispatching company, they put on the card the actual company name. On the brokering card, they put down my personal name, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, hold on now, that could cause some problems later on down the line somewhere. So I'm trying to get that part cleared up with the credit union.
Right.
As far as, I mean, in terms of like, because if you were to receive a payment or try to do a transaction by way of that card, and it's under a company name, but the company's name is not on the card, just the personal names. I'm like, well, isn't that a little confusing?
Correct. Understood and recommended. Yep. Understood. I get it.
They don't. The thing is, when you set up the account, the people who set up the account at the credit union, they don't have anything to do with it. They just order the card. How it gets printed and sent out, they don't know until it's received, and then I got to call them back, and then we got to go through this whole process of finding out, if it's even usable in that way, or if there's any problems that could come from that down the line. If not, then it could be used, But on the dispatching company, they put the dispatching company name on the actual card, not my personal name.
Okay.
Well, you want to fix it because I'm a bookkeeper, so you want to fix it for bookkeeping purposes as well. You don't want to make a mistake and commingle funds because your personal name is on that card and you think that's a personal account, making
Well,
the transaction fast or something,
that could happen because my credit union is just set up the business account. My personal account is a totally different institution altogether.
Okay.
But still, even still, like what you just said, I mean, it could look like it's personal account because it's got my personal name on it. And I asked them, so I'm trying to get that part worked out. You know, and it's like it's always something to me. It's just little stupid things like that that always just kind of like, you know, it's like tying your shoes, the shoestrings together. I mean, you can still move, but you just can't take the stride that you need to take until you get your feet freed up.
Got it.
You know, so, but yeah, so like I said, I took care of the other one, you know, because that card is, it has the company name on it, and I could use that card. So anything that's on record is based on that. But on the brokering side, they put my personal name on the card. So I'm like,
So
I,
is the account in your personal name or is it in your brokerage?
no, it's in the
See?
brokerage name, but that's the way the credit union set it up. But they don't do anything as far as the cards go. They just order it. They don't have anything to do with how it's printed. So again, that's my problem. So, but wait a minute, can it be used in that way without any type of confusion? That's the hang up right there. So I'm like, I got to get that part cleared up before I even do anything with it. You know, and it shouldn't take, you know, that much of a, you know, to fix it. But it's just, you know, when you order bank cards, you know, that 7 to 10 or 14 business days is
Okay. Yeah,
like an eternity sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah, and I intentionally made sure that I didn't set it up with my other bank account, the other bank. I just used my personal bank is totally different, and then my credit union I just took the companies, both the dispatching and the brokering company, and just set my business accounts up with them. Completely two separate institutions, just to avoid any type of confusion. I mean, so if in the event that like this problem here, it's probably easier fix because there's no other bank accounts linked to my name there.
Okay. All right, guys. Our next training will be this Saturday, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Just going to the calendar here through the website at 12 noon or 26. Okay, and this video recording will be uploaded later tonight or early in the morning, depending on how fast I can get it formatted for you guys. Okay. And thank you guys. I want to thank Monica for showing up tonight, providing factoring input, and I want to thank you guys for all your wonderful questions. Okay. Hopefully the information was very useful for you and put things in a little bit more better perspective for you. So, and welcome to new people like Hickson and others, Mr. Carter. So glad to have you on board, and Mr. Ellis too. He just joined recently as well. So, and I'll see you guys on Saturday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. You guys have a great rest of your week. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.